Hi, my name is Chris Holton Jablonski, and it is my great joy and privilege to serve you all as your minister. And I'm coming at you this again with my family for the special Junior from Your Minister edition, where I tell you one of my favorite stories, and then we have the mailbag. So this is a story I made up a really long time ago, and it begins, once upon a time, there was a valley. And in this valley, there were two really different kinds of people. Or they thought they were really different. No one remembers exactly how or why, but at some point there was some big conflict between the two sides, and they decided to build a really tall wall in between them. This yellow wall that stretched up higher than anybody could reach. And all they knew of the other people on the other sides of the wall were stories anymore. And they thought they were very, very different. But, ends up, they were actually pretty similar. You see, both sides of the wall loved building things. And on one side of the wall, they built these huge, beautiful sculptures with all sorts of blunt angles and shapes and geometric designs. They were very intricate and very complicated, and they were all made out of clay that they dyed blue. So there were all these different shades of blue, and everybody loved building them together, and these sculptures stretched all throughout the village. And on the other side of the wall, they had the same passion for building things, and they made sculptures that stretched all the way through their village, but they were made in swooping, organic, kind of soft lines and forms and all sorts of wave shapes, and it was very different feel, but very similar because they loved building, but they made everything in clay that they made red. And so it was that they lived separate, thinking that the other was so very different from them, until this one day, when a horrible storm came. And it was a bigger storm than anybody had ever felt before. The ground even shook, and when the ground started shaking and the winds swept up, everything was starting to crack. All the buildings, all of the sculptures started to crack and break, and the people were so afraid they left their homes and they went up into the hills around the valley to find shelter. And as the storm raged on, it destroyed almost everything. And when the storm had passed, the people came out of hiding, and they looked down and they saw the shatters and the shambles of what was left of their houses and their sculptures, and they all started to weep. Everybody started to cry all along the tops of the hillside, and they cried so much that their tears poured down into the center of the valley and started to mix with all the different kinds of clay. And when they were done crying, they all slowly came back down to their villages, and the wall was now down too, and all of their sculptures, and they could see each other for the first time, and they were so similar. And one person walked right out into the middle, to the center of everything, and she knelt down and she reached down and she scooped up a bunch of this new clay, and it was reds and yellows and blues, and she mixed it all together, and she created all new colors. And one by one, the people came forward, and they started reaching down and making all new colors. And so there was greens and purples, and they started to mix the geometric patterns and the swooping patterns, and it was beautiful what they began, because they remembered how connected, how peaceful, how loving they were. And I tell you that story because we are in the middle of a big storm. And it matters in the middle of this storm that we take care of one another, that remember that we are connected with everyone in our community and everyone in the wider community. And also, once this storm is over, we will come back together. We will dig our hands into what is left and what is new, and we will start building something truly beautiful. Amen. So now, we're going to have our mailbag.
Jerk.
Here we go. All right.
Leave. Come on.
Come on! Come on! Come on! Come on! Stay on!
There we go. Oh, you got it. You know. Oh. There it is.
You know bucket! You know bucket! You know bucket!
Aaliyah, Jack, and Ella. Welcome everybody to Mailbag. Jack, what do we have in the mailbag?
Well, Alice from Belmont asks, do you have a dog? And yes, we have a dog. Also, if so, what's its name?
That
Her
was
name,
our
our
dog Ella. So Ella's 2, and she's great. She's a wonderful dog, and she's now enjoying a biscuit. She loves to eat treats, and she loves almost anything with gravy or meat sprinkled on it. But yeah, she's a pretty fun dog.
Walter from Belmont asks, what's your favorite sport to watch and to play?
Thanks, Walter. So my favorite sport to watch, I've watched a whole lot of football. I wasn't really raised a sports fan, but in college I lived with someone who was a serious, hardcore Massachusetts, New England sports fan. And that was back when all the teams were really bad. That's when we started watching all of the Red Sox games, all the Patriots games. And when I moved out to California, that's when Tom Brady came. May he rest in peace down in Florida. But when we started watching a lot of football. And so it's been a really beautiful thing. Football also is often on Sundays, so it fits in really well with my usual schedule. So football's been really fun to watch with the family for a long time. But then as far as stuff to play, I love playing almost anything, but we've really enjoyed foam sword battles. So we have lots of foam swords, a whole little arsenal, and so we've made some shields, and so we like to get out there and sort of everybody wail on each other. That's been pretty fun, but really anything that I'm playing with the family. So what else?
My Brady sword is very, very bit up.
Yeah, her sword has been chewed up because of the dog, so we're gonna build a new one with
And
pink
so is my
tassels.
brother's.
Yeah.
Hey,
Oh, careful! No, don't pull on that. All right, come sit over here. That's right. We're gonna get a new one. What's the next question?
Hammond from Belmont asks, can you tell us what the play is going to be in the fall?
Good question, Hannah. And yes, I will tell you, the play is going to be... No, I can't tell you that. That's Ian is the only one who knows. And so I asked him though, and he said he will do his usual reveal in May. So that news is coming. It's going to be awesome, and it's going to be super fun, and I'm really looking forward to it, but I don't know what the new play is going to be.
Kabir from Belmont asks, how did life first arrive on Earth?
Nice, Kabir. So my dad was a biologist before he became a minister later in life. And so I've always been raised with a really passionate love for science. And so I think I'm side with the evolutionary theory that life kind of evolved out of tiny organisms that continue to evolve and all sorts of things like that. Historically, there's been a bit of a rift between science and religion, but one of the cool things about Unitarian Universalism is we've always embraced science and this kind of quest of the mind, and so there's a lot of harmony there. So I'm pretty sure that's how, but I would love to hear how you think life came to be on the planet.
And I'm pretty sure that was the last question.
Carol.
Oh yeah. Kirill from Belmont asks, where do you get inspiration for your sermons?
Thank you, Carol. So probably I would say kind of 3 places. So the first is I'm really lucky. Everywhere that I've worked in, especially here, I have a wonderful team of people, both the staff team that I collaborate with all the time, and we look at worship services and we think about ones that we did and we think about ones coming up. So that's a big thing. We're creative together and we all kind of feed off each other. And then we also have the worship committee, and we do the same thing with them. So we have a bunch of wonderful creative people that we're always thinking together with. And then the other piece is just getting to know you all. Whenever I'm writing anything, I always have everyone in the community in the back of my mind. And so the more I get to know you all and your lives and what you're facing, and the more I can kind of think about that and get inspired by that and what I think you need. And then the last thing is just the work. So we're always facing something, just like we're facing something now together. And so a lot of what I write and a lot of what we create together with all the different teams of people is to help address all that. I think that's it, right?
Yep, that's it.
Nice. So keep the mailbag questions coming. Thank you all very much. Know that you're held, that you're loved, that we're going to get through this together. And do please reach out. And I want to thank all of Team Jablonski, my production team, and the mailbag team and everybody. And we hope you guys have a wonderful week.